RFK came out and he said, we're going to look into vaccines. Don't get mad if I just did his voice. Oh, so you were okay in the beginning when I was doing Chinese, but we can't touch RFK Jr. I have his number right now. If you want me to call him and say, is it cool if I just imitate you? Here, imitate me. You feel better? Stop. I can't believe you just made fun of RFK Jr. He said the vaccines, he goes, we're checking the vaccines. In my opinion, what I'm hoping for, and I got to be honest with you, he is the single, I'm going to stick my neck out here, I don't care. He's the single biggest reason that I was excited for this team, because I probably trust RFK Jr. the most. I'm just being honest. The guy's been talking about vaccines forever, and you could try to discredit him all you want. If you're trying to discredit him, is it because you've made it political? Did you make it political? Because you can't deny the fact. Let me explain something to you. When I was growing up, I'm just being honest. When I was growing up, there was always like, there were no kids that had autism. Nobody had autism. You that I know of. And I had 3 high schools in my town, in Valley Stream, New York. Okay? Now, there were like 2 kids out of 350 something that were just a little off. They were a little off. Roy just had like this little look, but he was still in there. You could still, no, I'm being serious. He'd still be like, Roy, you in there? And he'd look at you like, I'm in here. Like, okay. I'm being serious. I'm being serious. And Roy loved just being part of the group. And I remember in senior year, Roy Z was his last. I don't need to say his whole name. But Roy, and we included him in all the sports and everything. There was an open door. Not an open door. It was an open window. It was hot. We didn't have air conditioning. I sound like one of those guys. When we were growing up, there's no air conditioning in the damn schools. Okay? So there was no air conditioning. So during the summertime, we were in school to the end of June. It started getting hot in some May and June days, especially if you just did gym. You'd have like you'd have swamp ass, and you'd wear that all day because you weren't showering in school. I ain't showering with Eddie Gonzalez. I ain't doing it. And so I remember we were looking out the window and someone was going to jump out the window. And then Roy Z goes, with that look of excitement, he went, I'll jump out the window. And we were like, woo, Roy. And then the teacher came in, he said, Roy, don't. And we're all like, Roy, I'll give you $5. I'll give you my bike for a week. I know you like my Schwinn Scrambler, Roy. I'll give you a bike for a week. And you could see little Roy just, Roy, I know you're in there. You could see he was in there. And he jumped out that window. I swear to God, he jumped out the window like, yeah, Roy. But there was no kids that had autism. And if you really, if there's no emotional attachment, why do you have emotional attachment to trusting all doctors? Why? Why do you have an emotional attachment to trusting that your baby should have like 20, 30 syringes put in them? Did you hear the things they put in vaccines? aluminum in your baby. What is the purpose of aluminum in baby? And do you see what they did? Do you remember all the programs? It was this and all the programs. And back then you had your talk shows. I wish Darrell Hammond was here. He used to do the funniest Phil Donahue, which none of you even know who that is. And they would have, today we have a panel who say vaccines are dangerous. And so you'd have everyone watching that, and we have a panel of expert doctors from the highest degree of their studies count, and they will outrule these dumbasses that listen to the drunk firemen on coke at the end of their bar in their neighborhood. But let's just listen to them. And they would have their debates. And you'd have one doctor go, they can't prove that these vaccines work. And the other side always goes, it's safe, it's effective. They use all the words. It's safe, it's effective, and our studies, and our stats, and the tests that we did, and the tests, but they don't tell you, were those tests paid for? And the ones that were paying for it, who's paying for that information to give those stats? But you see, as long as it's on television, it's real. For Christ's sake, he's wearing a lab coat. He's believable. Look at him with his lab coat. Lab coat. Say Dr. Billy. He must be respectable. Why would you not at least look at the fact of how many people in the last 20 years do you know that have autism? One of my family members teaches an entire classroom in a county, a classroom, 20 kids have autism, and you're gonna sit there and just not even go, man, something's up. Something's up. Why? I had a neighbor who made vaccines. And I've said it multiple times here. The thing I'll never forget what he said to me when I said, what about my friend whose kid who's got vaccine? And he said after his child, this is what he said. You're going to tell a father he's stupid? You're going to tell a father he doesn't know what he's talking about? You're going to tell a father that's with a child 24 hours a day? Let's say he's only there with 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day, he's dedicating his life staring at his child, playing with his newborn, this little angel that God gives us. And we pick it up and we're looking in this child's eyes and we could see the angel in his eyes. And then just after a couple blip, blap, blaps, the kid's eyes are different and he's shaking. You're going to tell that man who is convinced and is so ashamed to put out there because he gets debated and he gets shamed for thinking about his own child and what happened to his own child. He is shamed because someone that never met the child gets paid to see this child, gets paid to enforce sticking something in that child. Some of them even get bonuses for selling a certain amount. I don't know. This is all entertainment. I don't know if this is a fact. Thank you, YouTube. You gonna tell that man to his face? He doesn't know it because the trust is it's safe from where. You gonna tell him what he told me? He said, I don't admit this to a lot of people. And he started swelling up. I'm pretty sure it was from that. How dare you? How dare all of you? How dare you trust people you never met just because they're on television? They say, we're important. How dare you not trust them? I have a friend on my life, for YouTube and social media reasons. This is just entertainment. It's a wholly made up story. Swine flu made the 5-year-old get a swine flu shot, woke up the next day paralyzed. You know, I had a phone call once. A phone call. And think of that scenario. Think of that scenario. 5 years old. You just sent them to kindergarten for the first time. You're so proud. You're taking all the pictures. You're showing all the people that really don't care. Hey, it's my kid in kindergarten. Okay, that's exciting. And it's just, oh my God, this is where I'm at in life. And well, they're really pushing for us to take the swine flu. They say the swine flu is going crazy and we have to get it. Fear, fear, fear. Have you got your swine flu shot? I can't walk in a drugstore going, you should really get the swine flu. It says right here at the school, we must get the swine flu. And you get the swine flu, and by coincidence, out of all the things that can happen, you go to see your child the next day and they're glazed and they can't walk because they're paralyzed. I had someone call me up during COVID. Kind of a name person. Call me up just to tell me. And we debated for an hour and a half on the phone. This person was screaming at me about vaccines. You know the problem with you, Breuer? You listen to these people and you listen to that bit. Where do you get your information from? Blah, blah, blah. And they started giving me their resume. I got 40 people who work for me, and I'm a big shot, and I'm a big shot, and I'm smart, and I'm smart. These vaccines. I said, what about the people that don't work? Oh, you know what? So if it doesn't exist, it doesn't. If it doesn't exist in your world, then it just doesn't exist. Is that how it goes? You know what the problem is? That Jenny McCarthy, stupid, this and that. Jenny, thank you, by the way. Everyone who believes in the vaxes, God bless you. The ones that proudly say, I'm an anti-vaxxer. I'm not a vaccine fan. I'm not a vaccine fan. That is me. All of you that resisted and all of you that question, send a message to Jenny McCarthy. She stuck her neck out with Jim Carrey years ago, and people chastised them. Jenny McCarthy had her heart, her emotions, her life, because she knows her child. But the news and the experts and they try to convince you to hate her, you to think she was nuts, you to think they were both quacks. Because you believed the facts and the figures and the science says this and the science says that and the television says this and the television said that. You think if there was no money involved in this, it'd be as popular as it was? It's just a question. It's just a question. Thank you, Jenny McCarthy. Send her a message saying, you know what? You're a hero for sticking your neck out years ago for doing that. Do you have that video? Do we have that video? Yeah.
In 1990, there was no plague that was killing children, that we had to triple the amount of vaccines.
What happened after 1989?
The
Why did they
schedule
warranted 26 more vaccines?
Green.
26
Are
more.
all of them absolutely necessary?
They want to make money.
Of course.
It's twice as many as anywhere else in 30 countries in the Western world.
But
we give twice as many shots as any of those countries. Why is that?
Well, what are you against? Don't vaccinate for this, but vaccinate for that?
Yes.
I think we have to choose which
How
ones
do
are
I know
absolutely
which
necessary.
one?
You should educate yourself. We want to empower parents to educate themselves. Do we need to have the chickenpox? Do we need the hepatitis B shot on the second day of life?
I don't think we can afford to assume that the people who are charged with our public health any longer have our best interest at heart all the time. Parents have to make their own decisions, educated decisions. They have to look at the information.
Space out the vaccines. Delay them till after 1. Clean out the toxins that are in them. We don't need that many.
Why would a doctor not want to know more about something that could save a life or prevent a disease? I don't understand.
The AAP is financed by the drug companies. Medical schools are financed by the drug companies. This is a huge business. Vaccines are the largest growing division of the pharmaceutical industry. $13 billion.
They control medical schools.
What we're asking is for them to take a loss for the good of our children. That's a tough sell in a boardroom.
Has nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with that. Money kills morality. Money kills experts. Money kills morality. It's really that simple. So thank you, Jenny McCarthy. And by the way, my friend, who we would do a foundation for his daughter, who went paralyzed. Imagine waking you up and seeing your kid like that, and then you have to face people like, well, it couldn't have been the thing because, they said on television, that's wacky.